This is a great midweek easy dinner because it's only about 18 to 20 minutes of cooking time. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm one of the chefs at Waitrose Cookery School. Today I'm going to be making a delicious pea and spinach risotto in honour of Great British Pea Week. First things first, we're going to start off with our base. We're going to be using some shallots. We're going to go for a fine brunoise here, which is basically a fine dice. If you haven't got any shallots, you're fine to use a white onion, some leeks are nice in there. Any sort of like set bits of celery to use up are great to use in risottos. Now my shallots are nicely diced. I'm going to go on to the garlic. I'm going to use a microplane. So I'm going to keep my garlic and my shallots separate because we're going to sweat these off with no colour, and this garlic's going to be super fine. So if we do sweat them off at the same time, the garlic will burn before the shallots are cooked. Today I'm going to be using a medium-sized sauté pan. The reason why this is that we want something that's quite wide so the risotto is able to cook evenly. Because basically if we're going to use something that's narrow and deep, we're going to get unevenly cooked risotto rice at the end. So a generous glug of olive oil. We don't want it too dry. Very important to season our vegetables when we're sweating them off because it allows the sugars to break down, and it's also very good to season as you cook. As we've got these shallots really nice and fine, these will not need more than sort of a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Whilst my shallots are sweating off, I'm going to be heating up my stock. Always good to have a lovely flavoursome stock. You can either use fresh or stock cubes. Now my shallots are softened to where I want them to be, I'm going to be adding in my garlic. Give it a nice fragrant hum through my risotto. For the full recipe, please click the link below. Today I'm using arborio rice, which is probably the most traditional rice that they use in risotto. The reason being is that it contains a lot more starch than your usual rice and won't disintegrate whilst adding a lot of liquid, so you're able to still get that beautiful al dente finish. So very important when making a risotto, and it's what a lot of people don't do, is season their rice properly. So now my rice has been toasted and off for about 2 minutes now. It's started to smell a bit nutty. Got nice and dry, and it's ready for its first glug of stock. And again, really agitating this rice to release all that beautiful starch out. What you want to do is get your risotto to the consistency you want to serve it at, and then add your next ladle of stock. Whilst you're cooking this risotto, you'll start seeing your individual grains of rice start getting a bit more sort of plump and silky, and you can start to see them releasing its starch. So I'm half Italian. And just like my mum used to say, never stop moving the risotto whilst you're cooking it. The beautiful thing about this risotto is that it's gluten-free. It can also be vegan and dairy-free. If you take out the parmesan, you can use things like nutritional yeast or just keep it nice and simple. So I've just added the last ladleful of my veg stock. I've left 250 millilitres. So now you can really start to see the creaminess coming out of my rice. It's very close to being finished. I'm going to give it a quick try. It's slightly under, which is where I want it, because it's going to be sitting here for about 4 minutes whilst we make our puree. You can tell it's a bit under because it's going to have quite a lot of crunch, not the al dente crunch that we want, because that's going to just have a slight bite. This is still slightly raw in the middle. Now we're on to our pea and spinach puree. The star of our risotto are these beautiful petit pois peas. We're using these because they're much smaller than garden peas and they cook a lot quicker. They're a lot sweeter and softer in texture. Petit pois are an amazing thing to have in your freezer. They're great in soups, great to add on the side of fish or meat that you're eating. Beautiful to puree, to have with some lamb. We're using this spinach because it's going to give it some nice sort of minerally flavour and also give us a super green finish at the end of our risotto. I'm using half my peas. I've got my 250 millilitres of stock left. So we're liquidising this down so it gets nice and fine, and it's basically going to give us a beautiful flavoursome pea and spinach bright green stock, which is going to emulsify into our rice. Now it's time to finish our risotto. We're going to pop our rice back on the heat and go in with this beautiful green puree. Now we're going to be mixing this all in. This is basically our last ladleful of our stock. So again, constantly moving and agitating our rice so it all becomes one beautiful velvety finished product. And the reason why we wouldn't start off with this puree is because we're going to be losing all this beautiful green colour through the cooking process. So now this has come up, I'm going to be adding in the remainder of my peas. And here we have another staple for me, which is some parmesan. This is one of my favourite products to use. So now, as you can see, it's sort of thickening our risotto up. And now the most important part is tasting our risotto for seasoning. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna add a little bit more salt and pepper to my liking. You can add parmesan afterwards if you want, so that also has salt in it, so do be aware not to over season. And a glug of olive oil just for good measure. So I'm really happy with the consistency here. It's all moving as one beautiful piece. It's not clumped together, and it's a beautiful creamy end result. So now plating it up. So there we have it, beautiful pea and spinach risotto. For more how-to videos, please check out the Waitrose Cookery School playlist. Thanks for watching.